So welcome to Elevated, where we're elevating our mind, body, spirit, and our pockets. On today's show, we are talking about the secrets of storytelling and how stories can help you sell more products, attract buying customers, and allow you to charge higher prices. And make sure you stay till the end because I want to offer you free video training on how to get clear on your story. Roll intro. So I am your host, Amber Turner, aka the Sassy Entrepreneur, and I am a published author of several books about business and relationships, life coach, clarity strategist, and I am passionate about living more. Thank you so much for taking a moment out of your day to be here with me today. This episode of Elevated is brought to you by Deluxe Productions, creating and producing workshops, trainings, and events to elevate your mind. They are taking you to the next level in 2019. So, are you using storytelling to leverage your business or brand? Are you sharing with your audience on how your business impacts the community? I hope so, because if you're not, you're missing out on some market. Did you know that storytelling can help you increase prices for your services and products? Yes. Why? Because a story creates emotional investment. You want people to fall in love with your service, product, or you. Then you need to start using storytelling in your business, like now. And don't worry, because if you don't know how, I have your back, because on today's show, we have Susanna Haynie with me to share how she uses storytelling in her real estate business and how you can do it too. So, hey, Susanna.
Hey, Amber, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining me on today's show.
Oh, totally my pleasure. So glad to be here.
Thank you. And before we get into how you use storytelling in your business to attract potential clients, can you share with the audience a little bit of background on you and what you do?
So I'm a mother of 3 grown kids. I came to the United States, oh gosh, it's been 25 years ago. I have, of course, a husband, I started working in real estate when the kids were getting out of school, but it still gave me enough flexibility to take care of my daughter who has disabilities and just needs some extra care every once in a while. And I've always been interested in real estate, and so that jump was kind of logical.
Yeah. And real estate is like exploding, especially here in Colorado Springs, at least I hear. Like in Colorado, is that correct?
Absolutely crazy. People have discovered what a great state this is. Yeah. And so they're flocking here from all places. So
it's been crazy though lately, right? Like the rain, the weather has been like totally weird.
I was just talking to a friend of mine. I was saying, okay, so we went from snow to 90 degrees.
Right.
What happened to spring? But, the big joke is that, Colorado doesn't have a spring or fall, which is not quite true, is it?
It's just been really, really crazy. I'm like, everywhere I go, I'm like, everyone's like, we might as well live in Seattle. As much rain as we get every single day. And it's getting a little depressing at this point.
It totally is. And, for people that are looking to move to Colorado Springs, I'm telling you, we Coloradans get grumpy when we don't see the sun for 3 days.
Right. Exactly.
So yes.
I'm not a native, but it's affecting me. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. But anyways, off on a tangent. So let's jump right into the art of storytelling and how it attracts potential clients and customers. So storytelling brings the humanness back into business. And so emotions and it makes people laugh, invoke empathy, and creates connection. So that's what's great about storytelling. So stories are a powerful tool to sell and attract customers. And there are several ways to incorporate storytelling in a business. So I'm curious, Susanna, how have you used stories in your business to attract potential clients?
So, it wasn't that easy for me because I had to think about my business first.
Mm-hmm.
So what do people want to know when it comes to real estate? What do people want to know? So they like houses, pretty houses, HGTV style. They like, of course, the nitty gritty, the market and all those things. And then they want to know who they're dealing with, which is me personally. So I think that was my first step to just kind of determine, okay, so what do people actually want to know? It kind of all boils down to, showing yourself. So when I do show houses, I'm usually much more casual about it, or or when I see something very special, I point it out, and that it creates a connection. People start clicking with you, they get to know you, and so there is a trust that's being created. I know I follow you and on Instagram, and even though we've met once, I think, I totally feel like I've known you for a super long time. It's because you're sharing all these personal, or you're sharing your story and your path. And that's what I'm trying to do. Just share, what I do, what I see, and give people a glimpse a little bit into my life. And that brings me closer to them.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I can totally agree with that. So one of the amazing things about the age-old art of storytelling is how it invokes an emotional investment for clients and customers. So I'm curious on how you use that emotional piece to get clients to say yes. When you're walking through a house and you're showing people a home, a potential home, how do you use that emotional piece of a story? Because I can just go back to when I was looking to buy a house and how they would walk me through the house and tell the story, and I could envision myself in the house and it, and invoke that emotional investment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very simple. People want to be happy in a house. Can they see themselves be happy in here? So with questions, hopefully beforehand, I'm trying to figure out what is it that would make them happy in a house. And then as we enter, that's what I would point out. Remember, you were telling me that little Joey wanted a room in the basement. There it is. Your husband wanted a 3-car garage. Well, there it is. Wouldn't that be lovely? Oh, and many times, especially lately, believe it or not, I have my little laser measuring instrument because the husbands want to know if their truck actually fits in the garage. That's important. So I'm like, look, it fits in the garage. And so the cues that you're taking from the clients, they have their own. I have my stories, they have their story, but when I show houses, it's all about them.
Yeah.
So, I walked into a house one time, and it was an older house. It wasn't fixed up at all. But I get almost emotional when I see that there are the height measurements on the wall from the kids. And I knew that there were grandparents in the house, and the kids and the grandkids had all the height measurements, of everybody on the wall. And that was really touching to me. It's like, oh my gosh, this house somebody's been happy in here before. And, and I show that to my clients, and that really helps to connect, even if the wall color isn't the greatest or the kitchen needs updating. Just the fact that somebody was happy in that house makes a huge difference.
And what else that I wanted to piggyback off of what you said, which is pivotal, not pivotable. I always have a hard time with that word.
Pivotal.
Pivotal. It's one thing that my coach told me. The art of selling is asking questions. And that's one thing that you said, is that being able to actually tell a story and invoke that emotional investment, you have to be able to ask the questions first to know what it is that they want, need, desire, all of those kind of things. And so you can use that to leverage in your story, in your storytelling.
Yep. And that, and it depends on where in the journey. and the buying journey. I like that kind of a little better than the funnel, because we're not shoving anybody through the funnel. We're hoping to guide them through the funnel. So it depends on where they are. Like I said, if you're at the beginning, you want them to trust you, so they need to know more about you, more than just numbers and figures. Once they are, ready to purchase, you need to listen to them and help them create their own story, help them, and that's actually where things really come together. You really have to, get them from visualization to the realization of their dream, which is such a phenomenal thing to do. And that's part of what I like about real estate, that I can do this. And when that happens, people walk in and you see it on their face.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Okay, so I want to transition and talk about your brand and how you use stories to tell, have an impact on your brand. Can you explain how you use personal stories and the stories of others to create your brand?
So with personal, first of all, I think everybody has a story.
I agree.
Everybody does, even if they say, oh, I'm just boring, but everybody has a story. And I think it's just a matter of really sitting down and taking a look at your life. And I will have to circle back in terms of, just putting yourself out there. If you are authentic, if people can trust you, that will help you brand your business, because they know what to expect. So, and I was thinking about that yesterday, actually, because I had a couple incidences, and it was very clear who I am by the thoughts that I was having. It's kind of an outer body experience, because I noticed that I have very clear rules about who I do business with. And one of the rules is they have to be absolutely ethically perfect. So somebody said one time, squirrels find squirrels and they do business with each other. I don't do business with squirrels. Everything needs to be straight. So whatever is coming from me is going to be the absolute truth. Now I will not tear somebody down. I was like, ooh, your nose is, ugly, or, whatever. But when it comes to business, I will tell them, look, A is a better value than B. And, but if you still choose A, that's okay. I just need to tell you that. So how that translates into stories, if I can convey that in the stories that I'm telling about buyer's journeys, sellers' journeys, my own journey, going out into the mountains, if I can convey to them that I am ideally down to earth and very straightforward with my business, that there is nothing that I'm hiding, I think that opens up doors.
Yeah. And that's a great lead into my next question, actually, because stories build a solid brand, and in turn, it allows you a strong position in your industry or market, because holding a strong position in your market can allow one to charge higher prices as well as sell more products. And in your case, perhaps allow you to be more picky about who you work with. So, which is really, really important in my opinion. So how has building a solid brand benefited you in your business and giving you that positioning and allowing you to be picky in who you work with and who you don't work with?
Once you are clear about who you are and you convey that to others, first of all, you attract the same kind of people. And secondly, your worth increases. You invest into the community, you invest in other people. It's that gratitude, that karma that you're putting out that allows you to increase your bottom line by loving what you do and with whom you choose to do it. So your value increases, and that is such a great place to be. So once you got your brand figured out, actually, once you have yourself figured out and what you stand for, then you can convey that. And and then the value and the choices of whom you work with, and possibly the increase in prices, because there's only so much you can do, is going to come automatically.
Mm-hmm. And so what I'm hearing from you is like pretty much if you tell the right story, which is in turn creates your branding, because you are your brand. So if you're telling the right story, you're naturally going to attract the right kind of people to be able to work with. And so so part of it can be positioning, but also if you're telling the right story too, then you're going to be working with the people that you want to work with.
There's a harmony that I think needs to go along with all of this. So the harmony of who you are, the message you're putting out, and then the work, the service or the product that you're providing, all that has to kind of come together. If that is out of sync, things are not working out for you. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So what advice would you give someone to overcome the fear of telling stories or telling their story? Because I guess there could be a difference in telling stories and kind of relating it back to the customer or client, or telling your story, because a lot of times we don't want to go there with our own stories. So what advice would you give to others to tell their story or stories to overcome that fear?
So, maybe not look at it as, providing personal information to people out there. I think that is a huge hindrance and fear. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm putting myself out there, and what happens now? Or people don't find me interesting. I think if you look at it more as documenting what you do, how you do it, people want to have that behind the scenes look and, at what you do. And I think that would help somebody definitely to overcome. Once you have that mastered and you're looking more at your business and the branding, then I think it takes a little bit more planning. Then you need to start getting into, what stories do I want to tell so that my clients can identify with? So you focus on your product versus focusing on yourself with the documenting. Now the product can be, documented in terms of, when you have a product, how something is made. Maybe you're making, cosmetics or, whatever you're providing, but the fear of just starting. Don't worry about editing. At some point, lives are great for that, because you can't really edit while you're doing something live. So that's
terrifying.
So what?
I said that's terrifying.
Really? Oh no, I prefer lives because, I think also people are so much more forgiving when you do a live. They understand that things go sideways. But when you tell a story, just think about when you do it for your business, it takes a little bit more planning. Sit down, write everything down. Don't necessarily script it, I think, if you're just starting, but just get some sort of a plan going. And when you're talking about yourself, then just think more of documenting your journey in your business or in the location. So I love to, document my outdoor experiences and my little adventures, which I just want people to have as much fun as I do.
Yeah. And I think too, it's important to identify your avatar, like your potential client, your customer.
Absolutely.
And see like, what is it in me that my story could relate to them, and we can build that connection from that. Because in the prior episode with Morgan Archuleta, we were talking about sharing too much and being too vulnerable on like social media and in stories. And I think that's an important thing to recognize, is that perhaps you can be too vulnerable, but it's also a great thing to just recognize that one thing or a few things that your customer can relate to you, and just kind of share those aspects without sharing too much. Because, you know, you don't want to just I don't feel like it's a good thing to put everything out there, but at the same time, you want to be vulnerable enough where they feel that connection with you.
Yeah, you're not just this brash salesperson, but there's actually some substance behind what you're doing. Absolutely. I've never had that fear of sharing too much. Maybe I should.
No, I mean, I follow you, and I wouldn't say, like, I mean, sometimes when we're going through personal things that are like a little TMI, I think that's something that might make people feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like, not so much like, I'm going to Breckenridge, you know what I mean? Those kind of things.
Yeah.
But like things that are just like really heavy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and kind of leading into the heavy things. I'm not sure if Instagram or Facebook or social media is necessarily to there, you know, with a lot of heavy things, you know. So especially when you're trying to build a brand, you want to instill, you know, just a feeling of confidence that whatever you have will help you improve your life.
Right. Absolutely. Now, from starting your own business, can you share what was a major challenge that you faced?
I didn't know what it was like in the business world. I think that's.
Oh yeah.
I was a stay-at-home mom for 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have the confidence to go out and say, here I am, world. You know, I don't have college education because, you know, I came from Germany, and that's just a whole different system there. So I didn't have any college degrees. And so I didn't quite know, well, how, you know, what do I do? How do I start? And then, you know, just putting a lot of energy into it, but I was also very motivated. You know, it's like, I started this, I really want to master this. And that was basically it. I think every business just takes a lot of, blood, sweat, and tears. I'm pretty sure you can, you know, attest to that. And the amount of work that you're putting in is what you're getting out.
Right. Absolutely. And before we get into some wrap-up questions, I would love to know, what was the biggest success or win you had from utilizing storytelling in your business?
You know, I was thinking about that, and it's kind of interesting because it's less that I had direct success with my stories, but that actually I gained stories to tell from others that I have met through this business. So one of the toughest stories was actually this couple, and they had a son with autism, and I helped them purchase a house up in Woodland Park. Everything was great, and his health started declining, and within a year he had passed away. And we had become friends on Facebook, and that was, and we're still friends. And that was one of the most heart-wrenching experiences, just witnessing this journey as they, you know, went, you know, through this. And so, yes, I'm looking more at what stories have I received from all this, and then am able to actually, you know, translate that into my work, my business, and put that out there in other stories. Mm-hmm. There isn't really one singular story that came out of what I was telling, with the exception maybe when I was introducing myself to the world with like a 1-minute video on Facebook, where I actually for the first time said, hey, I am from Germany. I have, you know, a kid with disabilities, and this is who I am. And it was pretty naked. And the response to that was really, really huge. And actually I had a lot of almost clients at that point that contacted me and said, you know, I didn't know this about you. And then they told me what was going on in their life. And once you have gained somebody's trust and connection, that is tremendous in business.
Right. I totally agree. And I think that connection is so important. And honestly, like if it were me, especially if I'm working with someone in that type of industry where it's like one-on-one, and listen, the purchasing a house is a highly, highly emotional process.
Yeah.
Like it really is. I've done it a couple of times, and so I want to feel like connected to that person in some way. Like I need to have some sort of connection, especially in a process like that that's highly emotional. Like this is where we want to establish our home, and that's important for a lot of families. And so that kind of storytelling, and like you said, sharing your story and having that connection and building that connection is so important, because I would want that in something as huge as buying a home, you know? So I think it's really, really important to build that connection. And the only way that you can really connect with someone on that kind of level is sharing your story and storytelling and building that emotional connection with potential clients and customers.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, there's such a there's so much background on the internet now, and in order to make a difference, stand out, I think you just have to become personal enough so that people start looking at you. There's just so much background noise. In order to show up,
right,
you got to put yourself out there.
Exactly. I totally agree with that, and it makes you stand out and makes you different. So now I have some wrap-up questions. So
all right.
I'm a big advocate from learning the lesson from our struggles, and I would love to know, what was a big obstacle that you endured when it comes to your business?
Having moved to Colorado Springs and not knowing the city and not knowing enough people. That was tremendous, because this is a relationship business. Mm-hmm. And when you don't have the relationships, it's tough.
Yeah.
So that was huge.
Yeah. And I forgot to say before we got into that. So where can people connect with you online and learn more about you?
So my website is yourcoloradospringshouse.com. And if you're looking for information on new construction, where new construction is, or, you know, if you're thinking of relocating to Colorado Springs, I have a neighborhood guide there that you can download. On social media, I am on Your COS House, pretty much across all platforms.
Cool. Absolutely. And beautiful. And thank you so much for that. And thank you, Susanna, for joining me on today's show.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it definitely was a pleasure. So I want to hear from you. What is your biggest challenge that you have with incorporating stories in your business? If you're interested in more on how you can improve your skills in your life and business, I would love to connect with you. I do life coaching and mentorship, so definitely check me out at ambermarieturner.com. We would also love to have you join us on Patreon for more videos like this and group coaching sessions. Also, as promised, I wanted to share my free training on 4 steps to gaining clarity and discovering who you are to uncover what your story is. So I will leave the link below for that free training. So leave your comments, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and we will check you in the next episode.